In 2015, Valeant Pharmaceuticals was worth nearly $90 billion. A Canadian success story, a global giant, hailed as the future of Big Pharma. But beneath the headlines, behind the soaring stock price, there was a secret. Valeant had quietly built a hidden pharmacy network, a system designed to control prescriptions, manipulate insurers, and pump billions into its own pockets. And when the world found out, the entire empire came crashing down. This is the story of how one of Canada's biggest corporate darlings became one of its greatest scandals. Welcome to True North Files. Everything begins with Michael Pearson. Pearson was a McKinsey consultant turned CEO with a radical idea. Forget billion-dollar research labs. Forget gambling on miracle drugs that might never work. Pearson wasn't a scientist. He was a strategist. He believed the industry's obsession with discovery was its greatest weakness, a slow, expensive gamble stacked against shareholders. Pearson's philosophy was simple. Don't invent. Acquire. Valeant's strategy? Buy up smaller drug companies. Slash their R&D budgets to the bone. And jack up prices on drugs that were already proven and profitable. In an industry built on decades-long research bets, Valeant was skipping the science entirely. They weren't curing diseases. They were buying the cures, and charging whatever they wanted. It was aggressive. It was efficient. It was brutal. And Wall Street loved it. Hedge funds poured in billions. Analysts called Valeant a disruptive force. CNBC hailed Pearson as a visionary changing Big Pharma. It was the perfect Wall Street fairy tale: massive margins, no expensive labs, and growth numbers most companies only dream about. By early 2015, Valeant's stock was on fire, climbing past $260 a share. It became one of the most valuable companies ever traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange, held in major retirement portfolios and pension funds across Canada. Everyone wanted in. Teachers' unions, government retirement plans, billions of Canadian savings were tied to Valeant's meteoric rise. Investors were convinced they were watching the Amazon of pharma. But there was a problem. You can only slash so much. You can only hike prices so far. Pearson needed a new engine for growth. Something hidden. Something so complex, so buried in paperwork, that even regulators wouldn't see it coming. At the heart of it, a little-known pharmacy network called Philidor. In 2013, a small mail-order pharmacy quietly appeared in Pennsylvania. Philidor Rx Services. On paper, it had nothing to do with Valeant. An independent little operation nobody paid attention to. At first glance, just another no-name operation. But Philidor would become the key to unlocking one of the biggest pharmaceutical scandals in Canadian history. But behind the scenes, Valeant funded it, staffed it, and controlled every move. Internal records and legal filings later confirmed that Valeant didn't just influence Philidor, they ran it from within. Employees worked under aliases. Valeant held veto power over Philidor leadership, and managers received weekly updates on prescription volumes, all while keeping the connection under wraps. Why the secrecy? Because Valeant didn't want insurers or regulators to know it owned the pharmacy steering patients toward its overpriced drugs. Here's how the system worked. A patient goes to the doctor, gets a prescription. Normally, the pharmacy would fill the cheapest option, often a generic. But if that prescription touched Philidor's network, Valeant saw an opportunity, not just to sell you medicine, but to control the entire transaction. Philidor would reroute the prescription to make sure Valeant's branded drug was filled instead, even when a cheaper alternative sat on the shelf. If an insurance company denied coverage, Philidor had a workaround. They'd resubmit the claim under a different pharmacy ID. If it got denied again, they'd try again, and again, until it slipped through. In some cases, patients never knew a generic even existed. It wasn't persuasion. It was manipulation by design. There were even scripts for call center reps at Philidor, designed to guide patients and doctors toward Valeant's drugs, without ever revealing Valeant's connection. One former employee later said, "We weren't Philidor employees. We were Valeant employees pretending to be Philidor." Multiply that strategy across thousands of prescriptions a day, and you start to see why Valeant's revenues were skyrocketing. Philidor wasn't just a pharmacy. It was Valeant's hidden engine, the quiet machine behind the empire. October 2015. For 2 years, Philidor quietly powered Valeant's explosive growth, and almost nobody outside the company even knew it existed. But secrets like this don't stay buried forever. Then, someone pulled the thread. Investigative reporters started connecting the dots. Philidor wasn't independent. It wasn't just a partner. It was Valeant's secret weapon. The Wall Street Journal broke the first big story, and once Philidor's name hit the wires, every newsroom in North America was on it within hours. Hidden pharmacy network exposed. Valeant under fire for stealth pharmacy tactics. CNBC cut into live programming. Bloomberg pushed special alerts. The story dominated front pages before the markets even opened. Newsrooms lit up. Investors were blindsided. Analysts downgraded Valeant stock in real time. Even some inside Valeant were stunned. Many had never heard the name Philidor before that week. Pension funds, mutual funds, and retirement accounts across Canada were suddenly at risk. Billions tied up in a company nobody fully understood anymore. Markets reacted instantly. Trading floors lit up on Bay Street and Wall Street alike. Calls poured in from pension funds and retail investors demanding answers. Screens flashed red as Valeant's stock started tumbling, erasing billions in market value in just hours. Within days, Valeant announced it was severing ties with Philidor entirely. Philidor didn't wind down, it vanished. And for Valeant, this was only the beginning. The fallout was swift and brutal. What took years to build unraveled in months. Headlines turned into subpoenas. Lawmakers dragged Valeant executives before Congress, demanding to know why some drug prices had jumped 500%, 800%, even 1,000% overnight. Cancer patients broke down on the stand. Parents held up hospital bills they couldn't pay. Families spoke about choosing between prescriptions and rent. The human cost of Valeant's strategy was suddenly in full view. Public outrage exploded. Valeant became the face of pharma greed. It wasn't just the headlines. Editorial boards branded Valeant a poster child for corporate greed. Congress ripped into them for pricing tactics that risked patient lives. Valeant wasn't just a company anymore. It was a villain. By March 2016, Michael Pearson was out, forced to resign under mounting pressure from the board and investors. Pearson walked away with millions in payouts. but his reputation never recovered. Soon after, federal prosecutors charged Gary Tanner, a Valeant executive, and Andrew Davenport, Philidor's CEO, with fraud and illegal kickbacks. Both men were convicted. Both went to prison. But the shockwaves didn't stop at the US border. In Canada, Valeant's collapse wiped out billions in retirement savings. Major pension funds took massive losses. Bay Street scrambled to distance itself as regulators faced mounting questions. Teachers' funds, healthcare workers' pensions, even small-town retirement accounts, all gutted almost overnight. For years, Valeant had been seen as proof that a Canadian company could dominate globally. Now, it was a cautionary tale written across front pages nationwide. Valeant's empire wasn't built on innovation. It wasn't built on breakthrough science. It was built on a hidden pharmacy, a secret network operating in plain sight. For years, Philidor quietly manipulated prescriptions, insurers, and billions of dollars, all to keep Valeant's growth story alive. But when Philidor collapsed, so did the illusion. Today, Valeant continues on under a different name, Bausch Health. The company still operates, but its reputation never recovered. In Canada, the collapse left scars, investors were burned, pensions were gutted, trust was shaken. Behind the numbers, behind the headlines, was a single hidden network. And that secret didn't just burn a company to the ground. It burned a legacy. And it left a mark Canada still carries. You've been watching another story on True North Files. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe for more deep dives. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next file.